Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to the channel. Do you know my furry assistant? He's huge. Many of you also talked about his little brother because we separated the two, but I'm going to put a video here somewhere of them playing so you can see how the other one is with my sister. They keep meeting and running around the city's grass and lawn. They love it. But now I'm going to show you how big he is. Let me hold him for just a minute. Guys, look at the size of the hairy assistant. He's huge. Look there, he's huge and he's only 3 months old, and I don't know at what point his snout got so big that he became so huge. I can barely hold him here on my lap. He weighs more than 10 kilograms. I'm going to put it here on the small screen so you can see what it was like and look now. I can barely hold it. It's huge. Look at the paw here, guys. Oh my God, he is slipping. People, look at the size of the capybara. Look at this one. It almost doesn't fit on my lap. Seriously, I almost can't hold it. I'm gonna let go because I can't keep holding him anymore. Another thing, guys, since I got this puppy, my clothes are always full of fur. You must have seen in some videos, sometimes I look here and it doesn't look like there's any hair there, but when I'm going to edit the video, I see it's full of fur. But it's all the dog's fault. But now, guys, let's get to the point and move on to today's case. Veronica was a young Italian mother of 2 children known for her temperate and very impulsive personality, despite never having been diagnosed with any mental illness or cognitive disability. She was the protagonist of an absurd case where it is unbelievable to imagine that a sane person would do something like that. They even went so far as to say that she was possessed by evil forces when she had this brutal attitude against her son, but as you will realize throughout this case, the hole is much deeper and the story of possession seems more like a lame excuse than anything. Today's case takes place in Santa Cruz Marina, a city that belongs to the Sicily region in Italy. Veronica had a common childhood. She was raised in a very traditional family, and it was very common every Sunday to attend church. When she was 16 years old and working in a diner as a waitress, she met a man named David, 18 years old. They became very good friends almost immediately and then began a romantic relationship. At home, Veronica's relationship with her own mother was complicated. The two were always fighting, and the young woman's mother accused her of being a pathological liar. One of the things that most revolted her mother was when Veronica was absent from church, and there were times when the young girl would also lie, saying that she had gone to church, but in fact she had gone secretly with her boyfriend to do some naughty things. She always told her mother that she was still saving herself for marriage. She had no idea that her daughter had already opened her privacy to her boyfriend. It is evident that the relationship between mother and daughter was completely frayed, and eventually her mother's patience reached the limit due to the constant disrespect, leading her to expel Veronica from the house. Veronica then moved to David's family house and formalized her relationship with him. While she lived at her boyfriend's parents' house and didn't work, David worked as a truck driver, spending days away from home. During her absences, Veronica ended up getting very close to her boyfriend's father, seeing him as a father figure, or at least that was what everyone thought. In 2005, Veronica became pregnant and gave birth to her first child on June 18, 2006. The newborn, named Reese, was young, healthy, happy, and quite intelligent. He attended primary school and was one of the best students in his class. The boy was very intelligent. Even beyond that, Reese had a love for cars and martial arts. In 2007, Veronica and David got married, and soon the couple had another son who was named Diego, who was also a happy boy. However, unlike his brother, Diego was an introvert, shy, and didn't pay much attention to things, which is why he had difficulties learning. Now let's move forward a little in time and go to November 29, 2014. At that time, they were 8 years old, and that day was another ordinary day in the family's life. Veronica went to pick up her son from school as usual at 1 p.m. Upon arriving at school, she was informed that her son had not attended that day and had not been seen by anyone. The enraged woman caused a scene at the school by shouting wildly, demanding to know where her son was. After this uncomfortable episode, she went to the police station to formally report her son's disappearance. She stated that she had left both her children at school, Diego at daycare and Rias at primary school. The police even began an investigation by searching the school and beginning a search for the missing boy throughout the region. Veronica called her husband David, who was out of town, to inform him of the news of what had happened there. David immediately returned home, desperate. He wanted to know more about what had happened and how his son had disappeared. Meanwhile, at the school, staff and teachers were questioned, but no one had seen Reyes, not even his classmates. Later, the Sicilian police received a tip from a 65-year-old man named Horatio, who had found the lifeless body of a boy in a ditch near an old mill while he was hunting. The police and Veronica were called to the scene to identify the body, and the woman confirmed that the lifeless body was indeed her son's. The police had to restrain her as she was screaming, kicking, crying, making a fuss, overwhelmed by deep sadness. When she arrived home, she cried even more and informed her husband David that their 8-year-old son had been found dead in a ditch. David also couldn't hold back his tears and cried a lot. This was very emotional for him because he was his firstborn. He liked the boy a lot, and he couldn't believe what was happening. The man who found the boy's lifeless body insisted he was hunting and ended up voluntarily joining the search for the boy. After his wife informed him about the boy's disappearance, and as an experienced hunter, Horatio had knowledge about tracking, and he ended up discovering the boy's remains and seeing him there. He immediately informed the police. However, authorities initially doubted his account, making him the prime suspect. Investigators took Horatio's car for forensic examination and interrogated him for several hours, but found no evidence that incriminated him or connected him to the crime. He ended up being ruled out as a suspect almost immediately. Meanwhile, investigators went to the school and reviewed the security camera images, confirming that in fact he was never at the educational institution that day, completely contradicting the statements of Veronica, which the security footage captured. It was just the tantrum and threats she made against the entire school staff that were good. With her story falling apart, police began to suspect the woman who had been caught in her own lie. Veronica stated that she had not been captured on the school cameras because she had parked and left her son a few blocks away from the school, not directly in front of the school, and he walked. But of course the authorities didn't buy into this old wives' tale, they didn't believe it. And later the autopsy results revealed that Reyes died between 8:30 and 9 a.m. on November 29th, so the story didn't add up. He was found with his pants down, but there were no signs of abuse. However, there were scratches and bruises on his wrists, indicating that he had been tied up before being deprived of oxygen with an electrical cable that was wrapped around his neck. With all this evidence, the Italian police invaded Veronica's residence, as well as her in-laws' house, confiscating the footage from the external security cameras. Personal footage showed that the woman placed her youngest son Diego in her car and presumably took him to daycare before returning home with her oldest son still inside the vehicle. Later, she entered the house and stayed there for 45 minutes, and, different from usual, her car wasn't parked outside, but rather inside the closed garage, so there wasn't much access to the vehicle. Then, guys, she left the house while still in the car. With no sign of Reyes, it didn't look good in the footage. On December 9th, Veronica was arrested for the murder of her son. A power cable recognized as the murder weapon was discovered in her home. The woman was taken to the police station, and her husband initially believed in her innocence. However, subsequent interrogations revealed that the woman's mother was right and that she really was a master liar, as her statements in court varied greatly, changing her story from time to time to suit the new circumstances under a lot of pressure from the police and investigators. She ended up admitting that her son didn't want to go to school that day and caused a real scandal. She stated that she lost control and the worst ended up happening. Later, she changed her statement again, and this time the mother came up with a new version accompanied by her lawyer claiming innocence and stating that her son's death was in fact an accident. According to her, when she returned home after leaving little Diego at daycare, she was faced with a tragedy. Her eldest son had died from accidental strangulation with electrical cables. The woman claimed to have panicked and made the decision to abandon the boy's body in a good ravine. The prosecution didn't believe this story, and they were sure that the truth was much more disturbing than that, especially because Veronica's story was more confusing than ever. The investigators were not believing her testimony, as the forensic evidence did not match her statements, and to make things even worse, she decided to change her version once again, making an even more shocking accusation. She stated personally that Andrea, her father-in-law with whom she had already lived for years, was truly responsible for the boy's death. She also said that she witnessed the man squeezing her son's neck with his own hands. According to her, They were having a secret affair, and on that specific day, she and her father-in-law were having fun in the backseat of the car, and in fact, that was the real reason for keeping the car in the garage. According to his statement, they were inside the vehicle and the boy went there to get a toy that he had forgotten in the car. Apparently, the two did not immediately notice that the boy was looking through the car window. The two were having fun, and when they saw the boy, he had already seen more than he should have. He was a smart boy, so he knew very well what was happening, and ended up threatening to tell his father everything. Because of this, the grandfather allegedly took the boy's life in front of his mother. After that, Veronica took the boy's body to an abandoned location and pulled down his pants to create the narrative that he had been kidnapped by a monster. She later explained that she hadn't said anything before because she was afraid. After all, his father-in-law had a reputation for being tough. According to her, he was involved with the mafia and would have threatened, injured, or even taken her other son's life. She also said that she knew he would never be convicted, as the man had contacts within the government. Despite suspicions, the police investigated Andrea but found no evidence that implicated the man in a crime. On the day of his grandson's death, Andrea was seen by more than one person with his girlfriend. The man was being accused of a terrible crime, and he had the support of his alibi, which stated that he could not have committed this atrocity. However, an analysis of telephone records between Andrea and Veronica indicated dozens of quick calls in the months before the child's death. However, these calls appeared to be just typical family communications, which were not enough to indicate that they were planning a crime. Veronica's husband, David, fully believed that his father was another victim of Veronica's lies and stated that he had lost all trust in his wife. On the 17th of October 2016, Veronica was accused of murder and altering the crime scene. Her defense argued that she suffered from serious mental health problems, including borderline personality disorder, and had tried to take her own life several times. However, mental health professionals testified that they found no evidence to support their claims of mental health problems, much less attention deficit or any cognitive impairment. She was then tried and found guilty of all charges, receiving a sentence of 30 years in prison. Still, she insisted that her father-in-law had some role in the crime. Asked about her inconsistent statements, she stated that her memories and thoughts from various periods of her life became very mixed at that time. In 2020, Veronica was additionally convicted of defamation and damaging the reputation of her father-in-law Andrea, receiving an additional sentence of 2 years in prison and a fine of $24,000. After the last verdict, the woman threatened her father-in-law in court, swearing to kill him. David wasted no time and began divorce proceedings in 2017. The divorce was finalized in the same year, and the man also filed a lawsuit requesting that the woman be prevented from seeing his youngest son. About the result of this action, I didn't find any news, but I believe he has won in all his statements. Veronica insists that she had an extramarital relationship with her own father-in-law. It's been a few years and she hasn't gone back on saying that her son saw the two of them in a moment of intimacy. Although many say that all of this is just another lie from Veronica, there are those who believe that it really is the reason for the murder and that the father-in-law can go unpunished for being part of an Italian mafia. In any case, the court cleared Andrea. So whether or not their relationship was a pivotal factor in this crime, according to the courts, Veronica was the one who committed the crime and not Andrea, but of course I want to know your opinion. Above all, let me know below in the comments what you think about all of this. If you think that Veronica was lying or that she really had a relationship with her ex-father-in-law, let me know what you think about all of this. I like spending hours looking at your theories and your opinions in the comments. Thank you very much to those who stayed with me this far and stayed here. Don't forget to leave your like, which helps a lot in promoting the channel. I'll leave here a kiss for all of you and see you in the next video.